How are you doing? Jean-Paul here, welcome back in another video. And in this video I wanted to reflect on this whole topic of the fear of rejection. Because no matter how far you are in life, no matter how successful you think you are, or you're not successful that yet, however, we all have to face in one way or another rejection. You know, we always get, let's say, left behind or avoided by others. So I wanted to reflect on this, and I wanted to reflect on something that could be an underneath root of supporting this issue. Anyway, as you might can see, I'm absolutely at a glorious location at the moment, a beach called Wittering Beach, which is in the southeast of England. It's near Bognor Regis and Chichester. Up there we see the island of Wight, so it's basically on the Solent English Channel, and just around the corner we have Portsmouth. So you know, it is October, but we should be in autumn, but actually people still are diving in the water. So it's let's call it climate change, or let's call it luck. Anyway, fear of rejection. I wanted to reflect on this because, you know, as intuitive, as empaths, as creatives, as entrepreneurs, we are all on this journey to remember that we have forgotten, remember our core purpose. And our journey is really to align more with our true authentic self, with who we really are at a deeper natural state of being. How more we align with this aspect, how more we align with our essence, how more flow we can create, and how more we can work and live from the heart. And that's of course where true abundance will happen, will start to manifest for ourselves. And that's really how we ultimately want to live. That's the new way of living. That is the way how we should be able to ascend in the new earth. Now, when you are on this journey of, let's say, getting out in the world, you want to provide your products, your services, your ideas, your solutions to the world. Maybe you want to refer people to a business opportunity or that sort of things. At the end, you know, you have to go and get out there and share your ideas with the world. Now, of course, there are different ways of sharing, right? That's like how we like to call it. Now, the reason I'm sharing with this because I only share with the things I'm actually go through myself. So for me, sharing is for me my way of archiving all these different thoughts and emotions and experiences we go through. And rejection, you know, like I said already before, we all face it in one way or another. Now, there's one thing we need to understand of, you know, human behavior, and that is like we all see ourselves as the center of our own universe. And as intuitives, as empaths, we are actually very good at just staying at our own universe. It's just to, you know, explore what's hidden inside of us. So many empaths, we are quite addicted to solitude, and I love it as well. That's, you know, where most of us feel very comfortable. As comfortable as it might be, within our comfort zone, there's not always that much of growth. And in order to grow, we have to expand our consciousness or expand our comfort zone. And the way that do that is, of course, to interact and collide with, let's say, other universes. Like I said already, you know, like we all see ourselves as the center of our own universe. And, you know, to really to grow is, of course, to mingle and to interact with someone who sees themselves as the center of their own universe. May sound a little bit narcissistic, but just this really how it is, because no matter how the world is, we only perceive the world in the way we see ourselves. So if you want to see the outside world in a different way, then you first have to start by seeing yourself in a different way, because that's how you interact with the outside world. Now, here's the thing, you know, you have an idea, you want to refer people to a business, because that's really what we're talking about. So you go out there and you say like, hey, listen, I got a great idea, go listen, go check it out. It's awesome. Now, there are different ways to do this, of course. You could say like, hey, you go more the direct approach, right? You go like, hey, you almost feel like you're a bit like a salesperson, a really typical entrepreneur, Mark, who says like, I've got something amazing, go and listen to myself. And you know, for some that actually really work, of course, if you're completely fully aligned with your core inner beliefs are like, hey, what I got is the end of the world, this is it, you gotta go and listen out, and no matter where you are, just go and listen. This is the this is one aspect. We tend to dominate over someone else. And then there's the other aspect of being the most empathetic version of ourselves. We could say, yeah, but I want to be more authentic. I really want to interact with where the other is at, you know, what's happening in the world of someone else. And we can go in a very slow-paced way of communicating with other beings, you know, so we can really check like, hey, how are you doing, what's going on, where are you at in life. All right, so perhaps we could say through a very intuitive interaction we can, you know, fine-tune ourselves to someone else and empathize with the other person and see exactly where their pain points are, and then perhaps we could provide a solution and meet them in the middle. Now, there's always this battle that might happen between us when you have been at the side of, let's say, the most direct, dominant version of that. But right now you want to, you know, balance it out a little bit more with empathy. Now, I'm used to be at this side. This is how I used to be, and I'm very well familiar with being dominant, direct, very direct approach, and not always willing to literally to listen to the others, but just get it out straight in your face and say what I have to say. Now, when my consciousness started to grow, and I became more aware of what's going on, and I started to break down my walls a little bit more, I started to feel like, wait a minute, you know, I see what this is doing to someone else. And not everybody can appreciate this very direct approach. For some, you know, to others who are also really at this point, you know, other business-minded entrepreneurs, the direct sales professionals, marketers, they actually might appreciate that approach because they're maybe not so sensitive with their emotions either. So if you want to go that route, then you have to know that to who you're talking to. If you're someone who's a bit more intuitive, sensitive, empathetic, you want to learn more about this approach. So eventually you got to find what exactly is the middle and what works for you. What I actually started to mention first off, and how I actually should have started this whole conversation, it's very important to always give yourself some time to reflect on this, like, hey, you know, where is this coming from? However, also with this aspect, like many empaths, many intuitives, we sometimes tend to reflect too much about everything, and then we go into overthinking and overanalyzing everything. So, coming back at this topic of this video, when we are dealing with the fear of rejection, then there are two things we can do, and that is go into a freaking massive action mode, because through action we can cure and heal our wounds, and these wounds become scars, and through our scars we can tell our stories. But through way too many actions, you know, we can go into a workaholic mode and suppress that what we actually have to reflect on. When we start to oppress our feelings, our emotions. And then it's more the question, okay, so through lots of actions we can go and get out there in the world and get things done, certainly. And we can go over our fears, and it's basically you throw yourself off a cliff, and along the way you will build some wings and you gather some scars along the way. However, when you are, like, let's say, in a very massive action workaholic mode, those who are very workaholic, they either moving towards something or they're moving away from something. Now, of course, you could say, all right, those who are very action orientated, of course, you're moving towards a bigger bank account. And that's definitely something you're moving into. But what exactly is it that you're walking away from? Are you building up more walls to protect? That's what you actually get more touch into. You know, so instead of bringing yourself more into alignment with your true authentic self, with the version you really want to be, that what you're doing, are you either moving further away from that or are you moving closer to that? However, because then you go out of balance. But in order to realign yourself with that balance and create more balance and harmony within yourself, then of course the question, hey, we take some action and then we get a response, we get a feedback. And through this feedback, we can reflect on, hey, how did this work out? Is this the version I really want to become? What was I thinking during these conversations? What was I feeling? What were my emotions? And then you take a step back and reflect on that. And through taking a step back, you step up. You step up in consciousness, self-awareness. And through this continuous process, you create more alignments with your true authentic self, with your inner self. And then you constantly adjust over time with the version you want to become. You want to be this very direct version, like get someone straight in your face. Chances are you need to approach and talk to much more people than someone who takes more time with someone and really empathize with someone. But then you're taking more time to really to get to know the person, to really to see where they're at, what's going on in life, what are they feeling, what is they are dealing with, where do they want to go. And based on that, then you can say, all right, so now I got a solution, perhaps this could work out because you built the rapport, you built the influence, you built a relationship. So these are the two spectrums. You got to decide what is working for you and see where do you want to go, what kind of version you want to be. Now, we talk about a lot of solutions about it, but one more thing that I wanted to share in this video is that something you might want to have a look into, because right now I share solution-orientated ideas. But sometimes it's a good idea, like, hey, this is great, but I'm still dealing with this rejection. I still constantly feel like ignored. Whatever I say, it doesn't matter. Whatever I do, it doesn't matter. I feel people don't pay attention to me. Yada yada yada. I feel invisible. I feel lonely. I feel isolated. No one wants to connect with me. Blah blah blah. I will continue to stay in my own little zone where it's safe and secure. Then the root cause of this behavior, this is something I've been diving into myself as an interest, as a curiosity, is that no matter where your beliefs are at the moment, these beliefs are always coming from how we grow up, from our childhood. And what we memorize is the things that happen to us. However, to many of us, sometimes something had to happen for us in a healthy way in order to develop our personal identity, but actually it didn't happen. And what I'm talking about is CEN, childhood emotional neglect. And this is something that's very interesting to have a look into yourself. There are books written about it. I'm currently reading a book about it. It's very, very fascinating because we all grow up with certain type of parents, and they were either there for us emotionally or they were not there for us. And when they were not there for us, supporting us emotionally, it could either be from a parent who was dealing with a narcissistic abusive disorder, or someone who was dealing with depression or addiction or anything in between. Then it is more the case like, hey, they had to be there for us as a child, but they were not there for us. Instead, they shamed us. They put more guilt on our shoes, and they saw us as an extension of themselves. Instead, they had to see us as a unique individual human being, and they had to be able to empathize with us to really to recognize what we were feeling in that moment, what were our emotions in that moment. They had to see these emotions that were a part of our life at that moment, and then we had to be able to grow up and deal with our emotions. However, when they neglected us in some way because they were too preoccupied with themselves, like I said, we all see ourselves as the center of our own universe, and they were not able to collide in a helpful way with us, then we were neglected. And how more we were neglected, then we know it was simply not safe to stay in touch with our own emotions, feelings and thoughts. And that's when we started to build up a wall around our emotions where we were not able to feel anymore. Because of that, we struggle right now, today, to truly empathize with someone else and always continuously put our own agenda on the forefront without caring too much about the needs of someone else. So it is a continuously process to see again at what spectrum do we want to be. Do we continue to want to act like completely disconnected from our own true authentic self and just push our own agenda into the forefront, and then indeed you continue to get rejected or neglected in whatever way is possible, and then of course you can control the situation by standing above them and be able to dominate and manipulate the other, which is a very common situation in today's society because everybody wants to have control over the other person, and that's really what we do most of the time. Or do you take a couple of steps back, reflect on, hey, how did this make me actually feel? And do I want to continue to feel like that? Or do I want to head over into a different approach? So that's the question you need to ask yourself. So what were you thinking about these ideas I just shared with you? Please let me know. Simply drop a comment below. I'm very curious about your whole experience about this topic. And then, let's reflect on these ideas and topics. And I'm very curious and I really look forward to learn more about you and where you're currently at. Alright, Jean-Paul here. See you in the next video. Take care for now. Bye bye.